Can the Mighty Mags make it 4 wins on the bounce, or will the high-flying hammers bring us crashing back down to earth? It's the Tune Under Podcast's West Ham United versus Newcastle United preview. All right, lads and lasses, and g'day, mates. Welcome to another episode of the Tune Under Podcast, the Southern Hemisphere's favourite podcast for Newcastle United. Today we're going to be previewing this weekend's game against West Ham United at the London Stadium, which is in, checks notes, London. All right, so joining me today to go through this preview is Dimi down. Sorry, how are you going, Dimi?
Very good, Lee. Very good. Looking forward to potentially a 4th win in a row, which would be absolute wild for us. So who knows?
Oh, yeah.
If we get a win this weekend, I think we're going to have a guest from every single Premier League club come on, because this will be the 4th that we'll have, and it could be 4 wins in a row. So we might be the lucky charm.
Absolutely, yeah. You're stealing my thunder for later on in this video preview already, so thanks for that. But yeah, let's hope it's a lucky charm. And moving on to our guest for today. It is West Ham fan Athos, who is also in Victoria, I believe. Welcome to the pod, Athos. How are you going, mate?
Good, thank you. I'm hoping to buck the trend for opposition fans out here and take the pressure off, so that we can get one over Newcastle, and I can stop that right there. But going very well, much better supporting West Ham this year than previous years, where we're somehow relevant still, and relevant in a good way, relevant fighting for relegation. But it sort of feels a bit like a social experiment at the moment to see how far we can go with only Declan Rice and Jared Bowen carrying the team. And they're doing all right so far, so it's crossed that it may continue.
Yeah, let's hope not. Getting the daggers in early, talking about relegation. Thanks very much for that. So Athos, so you're from Australia. Can you give us a little bit of information about yourself, maybe a few 60 seconds or so, and tell us what on earth possessed you to support West Ham United?
No worries. So my name's Athos. I'm currently living in country Victoria for work. I work as a journalist for a local newspaper. As for West Ham, I fell under the father-son rule. So Dad grew up watching West Ham in the 70s, because they were a side that were always on TV playing in the Cups, and then that sort of meant that me and my brothers were West Ham fans. And it wasn't until I was probably at the beginning of high school that I started reading up about the club and about the history and the players and the fans in particular. That was something that really captivated me. And I started watching the games religiously ever since then. Just fell in love with the club. I've been lucky to go and watch a few games at the London Stadium, to go to Upton Park. And yeah, that's how I ended up being a West Ham fan.
Very nice. You don't actually report on the club, do you?
No. I just enjoy it and suffer as a fan.
Yeah, we've got a lot in common, haven't we, Dimi?
Yeah.
Yep. I think our suffering's at a different level than Athos at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment. Yes, at the moment.
All right, well, thanks, Athos. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time. We're going to have a little break, and we'll get straight into the discussion of West Ham. So, West Ham versus Newcastle at the London Stadium. I've got to start a little bit by talking about West Ham. And Athos, West Ham and David Moyes. So you've had David Moyes in charge for a little while now. He's finally been given a little bit of respect with that 3-year contract. And that was originally, he was given a 6-month contract to basically save yourselves from relegation, which he did with a couple of games to spare. And his thanks for that was like a boot out the door, and he was replaced by Pellegrini, which was lovely. And then he proceeds to take you all the way back the next season to just above the relegation zone. Then he's given the boot, and David Moyes is brought back in, this time just on an 18-month contract. And he gets you safe again. And then you have that cracking season where you finished 6th, I think it was last season, into the Europa League and so on. And then he finally gets that 3-year contract that he probably deserved already anyway. So now you're sitting nice and pretty in 5th. Probably hoping that you can seal that final Champions League spot, I'd imagine. Your fans must be absolutely loving David Moyes. I mean, most Newcastle fans do as well, because he took the Mackems down, which was tremendous, because we're probably never going to see them buggers again. But how are the fans thinking about David Moyes these days? You must be absolutely loving the guy.
They're beginning the statue outside the London Stadium as we speak, guys. He's done a sensational job. He's been telling us ever since he got sacked from Man United that he needs time at a football club, and we've given him, and he's paid off dividends. So considering what he's done with such a thin squad has been amazing. The transfer issues are a whole other story, but with the team currently there, he's got everyone bought into the system. You can see everyone wants to run through a brick wall for him. You can almost compare I would say this team's probably better than the one that Slaven Bilic had in the last year at the Bowling, whereas this team doesn't quite know when it's beat. It'll fight right until the last minute. It probably doesn't have the quality that Bilic team does, but these guys will fight and claw and scratch their way right until the very end. We started like a house on fire as expected, because we wanted to get as many points as possible. Congestion with Europa League and all the cups we're in, but we're hanging in there at the moment with the same 12 players playing each and every week, and you think that it's going to run out, but they somehow just find a way to get results. I'll admit the last month hasn't been pretty. The wins that we have gotten have been against your Norwiches and Watfords, where we've just got that lucky goal and hung on for dear life. And a lot of the better sides like United and Arsenal, who, playing great themselves, they completely killed us, and we didn't really give them much of a game. So we're in a bit of a weird spot. We've actually played a lot more games than the team around us. So a lot of those sides like Wolves and Spurs and United have quite a few games in hand on us, which is a bit of a concern, but I think you'd much rather have the points in the bag. Optimistically, we are looking at that 4th spot, but I think realistically we'll be competing for that sort of 6th to 7th once everyone else catches up game-wise. But you never know in the Premier League, anything can happen.
Oh, absolutely. So, so you've touched on it a little bit there. Can you put your finger a little bit more on just what David Moyes has done to transform the fortunes of the club? How does it compare or contrast with when Pellegrini was in charge? Is there something you can really put your finger on and say, this is what David Moyes has done that has really made a difference? Is it just that team spirit that you touched on there?
It is a bit. With Pellegrini, you had a lot of very talented players like, Haller and Felipe Anderson, who, they've gone on to other clubs and done wonderful things, but they didn't quite fit that David Moyes system, which is, you got to work hard for your team. You got to run back. You got to defend. Once you lose the ball, you have to win it back. And it didn't really feel like those guys wanted to do that. They were keen on just doing all the flashy stuff and scoring the backheel goals and doing all the fancy stuff, which isn't really that David Moyes style and isn't really that West Ham style. Old West has been a club that, prides itself on being, a team that plays with flair. They also like players that work hard, and everyone that goes onto the pitch in this David Moyes team has bought into the idea that they have to work hard, they have to win that second ball, and it doesn't matter how we score as long as it goes in. So he's found that right balance of playing some pretty attractive football at times while also making sure that the players are all working pretty hard.
So I mentioned that he's had basically 3 contracts while he's been at West Ham and a sacking. What do you think it was about him? Was it something about him in particular that the Dildo twins didn't like about him, or there was some reason why they thought we're not going to give him a big contract to begin with? We're going to give him this 6-monther, then we're going to give him an 18-monther, and then, okay, what the hell? We'll give him a 3-year contract. Was it? Did they just didn't trust him initially, or what was it? Do you think?
Well, when he got the job after Bilic got sacked, so this was 2017, 18. He didn't really have the best reputation after Sociedad and then with Sunderland as well. So he came in just to save them. And then once Pellegrini became available, a lot of the fans were actually on board with that appointment because Pellegrini had won the Premier League. It appeared as though West Ham was showing some ambition. And I think Pellegrini had them finishing, 10th, maybe as high as 9th one year. But then all the luck ran out. And then Moyes, the second time he did the job, he ensured West Ham safety. And then I remember at the beginning of last season, the fans actually turned quite a bit on the club. You know, they didn't buy anyone in the transfer window. They had sold Diangana to West Brom, who was, you know, almost the Messiah, the next big thing. So the fans had really turned on the club. I think there was a poll on Premier League fan optimism. West Ham was right at the bottom, and it wasn't until they started winning games and they started David Moyes started implementing his system and the team started buying into those ideologies that we touched on, that they started winning, and all of a sudden the tide turned and he was heralded as, you know, West Ham's saviour and the guy that was going to take them to European football. So he may have just been a genius all along, but no one wanted to give him the time.
Few things there. First of all, he had a fantastic reputation in Newcastle. I know I just said it, but I'm going to say it again. He took the Markhams down, so he had it's never been any better in Newcastle. And the second thing is, I think I take a bit of umbrage at that poll that says that West Ham fans were rock bottom in their opinion of their own club. There is absolutely no chance anybody was below Newcastle United fans. Absolutely no chance. We're in a different place right now, sure, but nah, we were underground. We were absolutely,
especially with Brucey in charge. I reckon if you took a poll after Rafa got sacked or Rafa left, and Bruce came in with Ashley still there, there's no way anyone would be lower than us. That was the lowest of the low.
Oh man, God, it gives me shivers just thinking about those two cretins, doesn't it? You know, it's like it's early days, obviously, but every now and again you kind of think about them, and it's like, oh Jesus, what a bunch of Anyway, so fun fact about David Moyes that I pulled off the interwebs. So he's called David Moyes, obviously. His dad's called David Moyes, and David Moyes at West Ham, David Moyes called his son David Moyes. So, like, it must be pretty interesting, you know, trying to work out whose monogrammed gloves they're wearing or whatever, you know, when they're all together at Christmas or something. It's like, got you these monogrammed socks, David, and they're all like, which one? You know, a bit strange, and a bit of a strange family tradition. I mean, at least it's not like Neville, who lived on Neville Street, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's the best fact I could find out about David Moyes.
So I think George Foreman did the same with all his kids. I think he named 5 of his sons George 1 to 5.
Why? I mean, I've got a bad memory, but fucking hell, I didn't call my son Lee, and you know, my wife's not called Lee, and you know, the rest of my family's not called Lee. I don't know. Anyway, Jesus Christ. Moving on. So as we've said, West Ham's having an excellent season this year. He's sitting 5th. With a real chance of some European football. Remains to be seen what flavour. And probably speak for most Newcastle fans in saying that we're pretty envious of the position you're in right now, especially with the last few seasons that you've had. I think you've touched on this already, but your recent form has been a bit up and down. So in the last 5 Premier League games, you've won 2 against Norwich and Watford. You've lost 2 against Leeds and Man United. And the last time out, you drew 2-2 against Leicester, where you scored a last gasp goal to salvage the draw. And that's not even mentioning that ridiculous game against Kidderminster in the FA Cup, where you were about to go out 1-0. Yeah. And then you score the equaliser on the 91st minute, and then you break everyone's hearts, all the neutrals' hearts, by winning it on the, I don't know, I think it was 120th minute or something. Yeah. So what can you put that recent form down to? I mean, is it just do you reckon it's just a temporary wobble over the last 5 games, or there's something else going on? Are you losing your confidence? What's happening? I
think it's a lot of fatigue starting to set in, particularly around guys like Mikel Antonio, who, it was funny, everyone thought he'd be injured this time of year, and we're very grateful that he's playing, albeit his form is nowhere near that of the beginning of the season. In fairness to him, he has been travelling a lot with Jamaica, and there's been a lot of games being made with West Ham using the same players. The only change that David Moyes really makes is either he brings on Lanzini for Benrahma or Benrahma for Lanzini, depending on who's starting it. And after, it doesn't really seem as though he's got a lot of faith in players 13 to 17. Like, we brought in Alex Kral and Nikola Vlasic, who he doesn't seem to put on very much. I seem to like Vlasic. I think he can offer quite a bit. Alex Kral, he came in, he had an interrupted start, he got COVID, and he couldn't quite break into the squad. And from all reports, his game against Kidderminster paired with Mark Noble in the midfield was quite uninspiring. So I don't think he quite trusts players 13 to 17. So I think naturally the squad would get quite tired, and you can just see they're not willing to take the game on like we saw in the beginning of the season. There was a lot of passing sideways and very unimaginative attacking moves, a lot more crosses than normal. We'd be quite patient and try to figure things out, whereas now it's just very lazy, go down the wing and just cross it straight into nowhere. Hopefully they can turn things around. We do have a Europa League campaign kicking off again in March, so fingers crossed that they can get some wins before then. But it is a bit of a slump, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed. And obviously the big white elephant in the room is all this Kurt Zouma stuff, which I think did have its toll in the last game against, who did we play? We played Norwich and then against Leicester, and I think the club could have handled it better in hindsight. The fact that they let him play it and got booed all night, I think that would have had an effect on the team. And then he was dropped due to injury for that second match against Leicester, where we drew due to the ball coming off Craig Dawson's arm, and thankfully the VAR didn't check it. So I think it's a range of things, but they're getting results. They're not always getting wins, but they're getting points on the board. So at least it is something.
Yeah, I don't think Zuma's ever seen that Netflix documentary "Don't Fuck with Cats" because you probably would have kept well away from all that, wouldn't you? Daft sod. So, who would you say has been your star performer this season? I think you just mentioned two names there, but Jared Bowen, I don't know, who would you pick out as your star man or star men?
It'd be Jared Bowen and Declan at the moment. The team performing quite poorly at the moment. Those two guys have been the best players each and every week. Bowen's goal scoring record in the last, I think, 10, 11 games is superb. He's been on fire, and his assists have been right up there as well. And he really goes at players. He makes all the right runs. He did have a few issues with getting shots on target at the beginning of the season, but he appears to have rectified that now. And Declan Rice, he's the type of player you want. He puts the team on his back when things aren't going our way, and he says, "Come on, lads." I think he plays like a real leader, and the fans love him. The fans really hope that he can stay for a bit longer. Each and every week that passes and we don't play well, people get more and more concerned. But he's a West Ham player at the moment, and he's probably leading the hammer of the year, closely followed by Bowen at the moment.
Yeah, Dimi, I think you'd have to agree. It's only a matter of time before he gets linked to Newcastle.
Well, watch out. If we stay up this year, we might just make him an offer he can't refuse, and he might just travel all the way up to the northeast. Who knows?
Yeah, we're just making our way down every single player that ever existed, I think, at this point. Was he being compared with, was it Lungy that he was being compared with, and everyone was kind of trying to say that Longstaff's better, and then it was the other way around, and now it's probably quite clearly who was better.
I think it was a game like 3 years ago when Longstaff was really in form, and it was around the time where Man United were linked to him, and we supposedly turned down a bid of 50 million, which I don't think is true. But around that time when Longstaff was linked and he was playing well and pushing, I think we played against West Ham and they killed us. I think Rice was man of the match, and everyone sort of said, okay, Longstaff might be a good up and coming young player, but he's not the level of Rice.
Yeah. I think that's just where that whole thing died, isn't it? We just kind of never mentioned it anymore.
And that's been the end of Sean Longstaff since.
Yeah. He got bruised. There's no doubt about it. Athos, I just want to mention, I'll just ask about Flappy Hansky in goal. I love that nickname, Flappy Hansky. Is it about time that we retire that nickname? I'm saying we retire it, but it might just be me these days who calls him that because I think it sounds hilarious. But like, how's he been in the last couple of seasons, and in particular in this season? Is he rock solid these days?
I think if it weren't for him in those bad years, West Ham would have got relegated. He saved us quite a few times. He is getting older. He retired from international football, I think, last year with Poland. It's been a fantastic innings, and he is probably one of West Ham's best goalkeepers, certainly in the Premier League era. I loved watching him play. When things have got hairy, he has come to the rescue. There is some actually good competition in the goalkeeping ranks. It's the one area where we've actually got some good depth. We've got Areola on loan from PSG. He's played all the Europa games and seems to have done a good job. But Fabianski has been one of our best players for the last few years, certainly. And if he does choose to retire at the end of next year or next, he'll certainly get a hero's farewell from the West Ham fans.
How old is he now?
I think he's 36, 37, which is, a goalkeeper's prime generally. So, you never know. He might have a few good years left in him after this.
Yeah. He was doing all right. Keep him in there. All right. That was pretty much all the questions I had. Dimi, you said before this that you don't have a good word to say about David Moyes, apart from, I assume, the relegation of the Mackhams. But is there anything else that you want to ask or say about West Ham as they are right now?
Well, I reckon there's been a turning point with Moyes at West Ham, and no one's ever picked it up. But if you remember, Athos, we played you a couple of years ago, the first game of the season. We beat you 2-0. Moyes, after that game, got COVID. He went away for 2 or 3 weeks. You won 2 in a row, and you never looked back. I don't know what COVID strain that he got, but whatever he got then somehow transformed himself as a manager. And then that's why you've now become the team you have. Because before that, Stevie Bruce came to the London Stadium and at Fox, David Moyes, and we won 2-0 with Andy Carroll up front. And then since then, Stevie Bruce is on a beach in Dubai and David Moyes is managing West Ham and Cork. So that's
probably going to get manager this season at this rate.
Yeah.
Unreal.
I actually do remember at the time a lot of people did make that comparison, that and the fact that there were no fans, because it was right at the beginning of that. It is an interesting turning point. Maybe the strain that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wishes he had, and all those kind of guys. So you could be onto something there, Jimmy.
Yeah, that virus actually made him smile for once as well, which is incredible when you think about it. He had to get infected with a nasty virus.
Sad man, isn't he?
Crack a smile. I don't know if that monument that you talked about, Athos, is going to have him smiling, or if it's just going to be his normal kind of grimace face or what, Remains to be seen how that goes. Depends how the season ends, I suppose. All right. Thank you, Dimi. Thank you, Athos, for that. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll come back and get into the game itself. All right, welcome back. And let's get into the game itself. So, bit of preamble. The last 5 meetings between the clubs has resulted in Newcastle winning 3, losing 1, and drawing 1, which is lovely. However, if we just look at the last 5 games down at West Ham, then Newcastle's won 3, West Ham's won 2. So, could be a close game. And it's probably going to have some goals in it. And hopefully just for Newcastle. I'm going to bring up the league table because I want to give a bit of context as to where both teams are. So here it is, for the benefit of people who are listening rather than watching. Newcastle in 17th, which is 4th bottom, just above the relegation zone, but with that lovely 4-point cushion over Norwich City and a game in hand on them as well, which is fabulous. And I think that's literally the highest we've been all season, Athos. So I'll afford you a laugh.
Oh, wow.
At the very top there is West Ham, 5th place. How we'd love to swap places with that. 41 points. I think any chance you're going down is probably gone by now. Spurs, lovely to see Spurs in 8th on 36. They're outside of the European spots by the looks of things. So you've got a 5-point gap over them right now. Although, as you've mentioned, they do have, 3 games in hand over you. So you don't know how that's going to go. But Spurs are absolute dump right now, and Conte is having a meltdown. So, there's a good chance she'll be still in the top 6, 7, or even maybe it's 4. You never know how that's going to go. Just quickly looking at Newcastle's fixtures to put this one in context. So West Ham, of course, and then we've got away to Brentford, and then it's a home game against Brighton. We are away to Chelsea after that, then home to Crystal Palace, and then we're away again to the aforementioned dump, Tottenham. So, Dimi, just quickly, we need to pick up some points, of course. Where do you see us picking points out of those fixtures?
Well, to be honest, the way we're playing, the only game out of that I would think that we've got no chance of picking up points is probably Chelsea away. Every other game, especially the way Spurs are playing, we should go into the game confident that we can potentially pick up points. Not that we will win all those games, and we probably will lose one or two of them, but the confidence I think we've got from the last 3 games, definitely there's winnable games out of that 6. I think Brentford, especially the one after the West Ham game, that's a massive opportunity.
Yeah, I'd imagine you'd probably take 4 points out of those 2 fixtures, wouldn't you, West Ham and Brentford?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. All right. So, as I've said, Newcastle have won the last 3 on the trot, 5 unbeaten. Athos, I'm just wondering, as a fan of the opposition, how do you, as a fan base, I mean, I don't suppose you can speak for everybody, but I guess you're on forums and stuff and you're on Twitter and what have you. What do you reckon the general feeling is from the fan base about Newcastle now that we've been taken over and have all the money in the world, apparently? And, how our season's gone so far and the fact that we're starting to climb out the bottom 3. Where do you reckon where do you guys see our primary strengths and weaknesses?
Well, as a West Ham fan, it feels like you've recruited just to beat us, because you've got Callum Wilson and Chris Wood, who have amazing goal-scoring records against West Ham. I know Wilson's out injured, but Chris Wood, I know he hasn't scored yet. You'd be safe money to bet on him on home. Love a goal against the Hammers, but I think everyone loves Kieran Trippier. He scored a wonderful goal at the weekend. Another big shame that he got injured because he's some player. But I think, aside from all the memes about Newcastle having all the money and potentially going down, I think everyone wants this Newcastle doing well. They're a club that once that stadium's rocking, you can really feel it off the TV, and everyone fell in love with the club with Santiago Munez. I'm sure that movie got a few fans on board. They're a club that really should be competing for Europe. They're a club that should be where West Ham is at the moment, and maybe even higher with this takeover. So that takeover was a long time coming. I know everyone was very frustrated with the previous owner, who we shall not name. So I think as long as Newcastle survive this season, they can use it as a chance to build, and then who knows, maybe European football could be right around the corner if they play their cards right.
That'll be right. Santiago Nunez. Did we literally just sign him recently?
We did. We signed, and full legitimate as well. We signed his namesake, some Mexican youngster who just got his first appearance off the bench for the under-23s, where he's been MIA for the last 3 months since we've signed him. So everyone thought it was a hoax. He wasn't a real person, but he just played on the weekend, so he is real. But
literal same name. So unreal.
Legit same name.
And even the actor got in on that action, didn't he, on Twitter? Even the original actor started having to go about that. Yeah, it's absolutely mental.
Even if he turns out to be an absolute flop, the publicity that it would have got just because we signed him probably paid for itself, paid for the transfer fee. So we'll take it.
Fair enough. I don't think we'll ever see him in the first 11, but you never know. So, Dimi, that was Athos talking about Newcastle. Where do you see West Ham's weaknesses, and where do you think we can exploit that in this game?
Weaknesses. There's not obviously hasn't been too many this year because they're sitting in the top 4 and they've been hard to beat. I think defensively and especially in the fullback position is where we could potentially exploit them on the break. St. Maxim. I remember historically at the London Stadium we have given them trouble on the counter attack. We have gotten in behind them. So I think, we say it every week, but Maxi's going to have a big role to play in this game if we're going to win. I think on the West Ham probably have the majority of the possession, but if we can cut the ball out and spring a counter attack, I think Maxi's going to have a huge opportunity on the wing to take on their fullbacks. Yeah,
you never know what that guy's going to do. It's brilliant. What about Chris Wood then? I mean, our last guest for the previous game against Villa said he's got this tremendous scoring record against Villa and didn't have a sniff. Did a lot of good work, but didn't have a sniff of goal. So do you think this might be the game where he breaks his legit duck?
Hopefully. I mean, he's getting into decent positions. He's actually working really hard and doing a good job for the team. But he does seem like somebody who needs a goal. He's desperate for a goal for his confidence. So, like Athos said, if he's got that bogey team in West Ham that he might do well against, it might just be the fillip that he needs. Hopefully we can get enough set pieces and crosses to him for him to do some damage, because I can't remember us giving him even 2 or 3 good crosses a game. He doesn't really have that service that he usually would. whereas Burnley would be lumping long balls all day, so we have a lot of service to get on the end of it. But with us, obviously Maxi doesn't cross the ball, and Fraser's crossing his hit and miss, so it's probably fighting for scraps at the moment for Wood, but hopefully we can get a good set piece delivery this week from John Joe or Fraser, and he can get on the end of something. Yeah,
we're getting a bit of joy from those set pieces, aren't we? But there again, the guy who takes them is now out injured, which is pretty poor for us. Athos, if you were to put yourself in Eddie Howe's shoes, could you describe how Newcastle might go about playing against West Ham if we want to come away with some points from this game? What would you suggest his tactics? I mean, Dimi's just touched on counter-attack there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I remember the first time we met, this and obviously under different management, but in that first half in particular, you guys started like an absolute house on fire. I think you were leading 2-1 at halftime, and the first goal was exactly what Dimi explained. It was St. Maximin. He was causing trouble down that what would be the left or right hand side. I can't remember, but he was giving Soufal an absolute. Yeah, so it was giving Soufal an absolute bath. And the fullbacks recently have been a concern, where it was a strong point earlier in the season with Ogbonna and Zuma for those 5 weeks before Ogbonna did his ACL, and they were indestructible. Now is a bit of a weak point. So I think targeting the fullbacks is certainly where Newcastle can find a bit of joy. We have had a lot of trouble with St. Maximin in the past, and when he's on. We saw that firsthand in the first game where you guys jumped the gun and we were able to claw our way back after half time. I think as the home team, we will have the majority of the ball, but our strength, where at the start of the season, we actually quite liked teams coming at us. Like we fed off that, we absorbed the pressure and then hit them on the counter. Now we look really shaky, even against Watford and Norwich, we would, defending a 1-goal lead, and even get them into the 6th tier gave us a lot of trouble. So if Newcastle come at West Ham and throw the balls up to Wood and St. Maximin dazzles his way through the box, I think it could cause a lot of trouble there.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm kind of hoping that you guys will continue to try and do this long crosses into the box, and because we've got the tallest man in the history of the universe at centre-back now, Big Dan Burn, BDB. There was a picture, Dimi, I don't know if you saw it, was this photograph from the last win, and we got Ryan Fraser, who's 5 foot nothing or something, and then he's on the back. He's jumped on the back of Big Dan Burn. And honestly, it looks like one of those fancy dress things, where you can dressed up. It looks like you're riding around on an emu. It was that kind of ridiculous small person on top of a large thing. So I think if you continue to chuck balls into the box, Big Dan Burn is just going to be nutting them away all day. Do you reckon, Dimi?
Absolutely. Big. I'm a big fan of Big Dan Burn, and I'm a big fan of those photos as well with Fraser. I hope he walks next to Fraser every game now. Oh
man, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's like the Crankies. I don't know if you guys know what the Crankies are, but it's a bit like the Crankies over in England back in the day. Aged myself a little bit here. So Athos, just to touch on that last game against Leicester, it was 2-2. You managed to scramble a goal at the end. As you said, it was possibly a VAR situation that somehow wasn't VAR'd. Everyone's got an issue with VAR this season, it seems. How did that game go for West Ham in the sense of how did it attack it? Did you collect any injuries or any suspensions that might be relevant for this game today?
No injuries or suspensions. The only interesting was Zuma was pulled from the lineup a few hours before. They were citing illness, and they said that he was really keen to play. But given what's happened over the last few weeks, we're not quite sure whether West Ham got cold feet and realised all these sponsors are pulling out. We better not play him, or who knows. So he's the only one that I'm not sure about whether he'll play. And if he doesn't play and it's Diop and Dawson, I think Chris Wood will have an absolute field day against that defence. But no injuries or suspensions. We started really well against Leicester. We went a goal up, and then what appeared to be, just a routine set piece for them before half time, they scored. And it killed all our momentum. And then in the second half, we just were on the back foot. And then lucky that Craig Dawson scored that winner at the end. It was really a game of two halves, and I think a draw was ultimately the fair result.
Fair enough. All right. Well, we'll come on to the teams in a moment. Newcastle have their own injury issues, which I'm sure, well, you've already touched on one, and I'm sure that's going to come as great news to the ears of Hammer fans. So in fact, let's get the teams up now. Dimi, I'm going to start with you. This is your predicted lineup. Can you talk us through it, especially for the benefit of people who are listening to this? Talk us through it. It's clearly obvious that we've got something to solve at right back.
Yes, I've listed Manquillo there, but since doing that 11, it seems like Manquillo is going to be out for a couple of weeks. So unfortunately, it's going to be Emil Kraft who's going to have to play as a right back.
Oh, God.
At centre half, which is scary, yes. At centre half, we've got BDB, Big Dan Burn, and Fabian Schär. There's no way in hell that my mate Jamal should be back in the team. He can sit right where he is. Matty Targett comes back. He's back from his Aston Villa absence because he's on loan from Villa. In the middle, I would have loved to have put Bruno in, but you can't break up that three at the moment. So I've got the same three and the same three in the middle: Shelby, Jolinton, Willock, and the same three up front: ASM, Wood, and Fraser. You'd love to get Bruno in there, but after winning 3 in a row, it's very difficult to drop a winning team.
And Lascelles was your mate. Lascelles, he was just feeling ill, I think, last time, wasn't he? Last time out. So presumably he'll be actually fit to return, and he's obviously the captain as well. If he comes back in, are you dropping Burn?
No chance. If he comes back in, what I could potentially see, which I wouldn't advocate, is BDB go play right back. I have heard that he has played right back before, even though he is 6'20" and however tall he is. He's actually quite quick and not your typical lumbering centre half. So if it means that BDB goes to the right back, I wouldn't do it. But yeah, there's no real reason to bring Lascelles back. BDB was man of the match. Cher's been probably his best 3-game stretch for a long time.
Yeah.
So there's no need to break up a centre half partnership like that.
I was going to say Cher's been brilliant lately. BDB was fantastic. Could you see? I think I've heard that Burn plays left back rather than right back. Maybe he does both. I don't know. But if you could do left back, can Targett play right back?
I'm pretty sure Targett is one-sided. So I have read that Targett hasn't played right back before, and he's purely a left-sided player. Whereas BDB has fielded a couple of times, I have heard, as a right back. Not to say that he's a proper right back, but if they really wanted to rush Lascelles back, which I wouldn't, that could be an option at right back.
Okay, and just for the benefit of Athos, Joe Linton in the centre there is quite easily the best midfielder in the entire country. So that's one for you guys to watch out for. He is immense.
He's going to Qatar. He is going to Qatar. He is going to be in the Brazilian squad. Mark my words.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. It would be well deserved. All right, Athos, let's move on to your formation. Yeah, we kind of touched on some of this already, but if you could just talk us through it from the back, and particularly if you think there might be a chance for something to be slightly different, please let us know. So yeah, starting from the back, please.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's pretty much the same West Ham team that's been out there the last few weeks. The only change I can really see is that either Zuma playing or Craig Dawson playing. Diop, funnily enough, actually had one of his best games against Leicester, so I don't think he'll be dropped. So it'll either be Kurt Zuma or Craig Dawson in that back line. The midfield, Rice and Souček, has been pretty stable all season. Souček hasn't had the chance to go up and score like he did last year, simply because Declan Rice is doing that. So a lot of fans are quite concerned with Souček at the moment. They think he looks a bit lost because he can't go up for those late runs and score all those headers from the set pieces. So I think we'll be watching him very closely. Lanzini has broken into the team again. He looks reinvigorated. He came to West Ham about 7 years ago, did really well, did his ACL, and since then has made a really good recovery, particularly this year. So he probably knocks Ben Rama out of the starting 11 at the moment, and Benny just came back from the AFCON, so not quite sure what his fitness levels or his fatigue levels are at the moment. And then up front, Antonio and Bowen, who have been our source of goals this year. Antonio hasn't scored for quite some time. He looks a shadow of the player that he was at the beginning of the year. He just doesn't look like himself. So hopefully he can turn things around. But Bowen has been our man of the match for the last 8 weeks. He's been superb. He's been, a real good source of goals. So fingers crossed that Gareth Southgate picks him for the English squad because, I'd love to see him rewarded for all his hard work.
Yeah, no, he's brilliant. He's got a hell of a foot on him, hasn't he? So what was your typical formation then? Would you say that's a 4-4-3, 4-5-1? I mean, does it alter? What's your typical formation?
Yeah, it is a bit more of a 4-5-1. They actually have played with almost a 5 at the back at times when they actually dropped Cresswell in as the third centre-back and had Ben Johnson, one of the academy products, as the left fullback, but he's got injured, I think, and I don't believe they really trust the other fullback, Ryan Fredericks, all that much. So they've gone back to a back 4 now, which has looked shaky over the last few weeks. So hopefully they can patch things up there. But Cresswell was the player who got injured and we really missed from a set piece and putting balls in perspective. So he's another big in this week, particularly with quite a few aerial threats to head balls in.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much for that. So let's do some score predictions. I think I'll go first because mine's probably the most boring of the lot. Our boy Craig has been an absolute sage, hasn't he, Dimi, these last few games, pretty much nailing every result. Not the actual score, but the win or the loss or the draw. He reckons it's going to be a 1-1, so I'm going to completely take that as my prediction for this game. Athos, why don't you go next?
I think the fact that West Ham's at home, if it was at St James's Park with the momentum and particularly the crowd at the moment, you guys win 2 games in a row and the crowd really gets behind them and creates that really hostile atmosphere. But it's at the London Stadium. I'd back us to win there against most teams. So I'm tipping a 2-1 West Ham win.
2-1, nice and tight. I should have done another warning. I know Dimi touched on it, but you are the 4th guest from the opposition to be on our pod. And
yes.
I think they've all predicted a win and they've all went away with a defeat. It's glorious. So, yeah, I was going to give you a fair warning, but I've just completely balls that one up. All right, so 2-1 to you. And Dimi, what are you going for, mate?
I'm going for a 2-2 draw. I think we can score. I don't think we can hold them up. I just don't trust our shape. As good as we were last week against Villa. Villa were terrible. So West Ham at home, tough to beat. If we could get a point out of it, fantastic. I think we can score against them. Like Athos said, I'm backing Chris Wood to score this week. He's going to get his first goal and get the monkey off the back. So 2-2 draw for me.
All right, 2 draws and a predictable win from Athos there. All right, that'll do. Thank you very much for those predictions, lads. And we'll just do a wrap up now. So thanks very much, Athos, for your time in joining us today and giving us that really interesting insight into our next opponents. Good luck. I always say this, I don't really mean it. Good luck to West Ham for the rest of the season. And, actually, I do mean this. I do hope you get into the Champions League. If not just for the fume from the likes of Man United if they don't make it, because I don't think they deserve it by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, good luck for the rest of the season, starting, of course, after this game, because I want to get us at least a point. Quick announcement. For this West Ham game, the Brisbane Newcastle United supporters group is going to be once again at the Riverside Pig and Whistle in the city centre. So that'll be Saturday. The kickoff is at 10:30 p.m. We've got around about 30 or so people confirmed to be in attendance for this. That's 30 Newcastle people, that is. It's going to be absolutely mental. The last one, it was pretty good. It took me several days for my throat to come back. This one will be even better, I think, because there's a chance we might get something out of this game, even if it is a slim chance. So if you're in the area and you fancy coming to join us, please do. Everyone's more than welcome. So that's a Pig and Whistle on Eagle Street in the CBD of Brisbane. So thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you lovely subscribers for the next episode, which will be a review of this game, possibly on Sunday. Again, it just depends on how absolutely knackered we are from watching that game on the Saturday. Don't forget, we're available on Twitter, TuneUnderPod. Our website is tuneunder.com. We're on YouTube and Facebook too, of course. Just search for Tune Under Podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Do all that nice stuff. And keep giving us those comments and questions. Every bit of interaction helps us build this podcast. And it makes us feel dead good as well when we get some comments off you lot. So thanks, everyone. Stay safe out there. I'll wear the mighty mags. Cheers, lads.